Hi, my name is Keith, and I'm known as the Florida Stone Man, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about why you should not be letting people touch your head. Now, for my spiritual people, and people who are in traditions, people who are just have spiritual backgrounds, anything, for people who are just involved spiritually, you already know that the head, the crown chakra, is the most sacred chakra. This is your antenna, your connection to heaven. It's your connection to your guides, your main guide. It could be an angel, it could be an ancestor, it could be something else. Hopefully something good, but because some people do have bad guides, not good. But, and those people who have bad guides have headaches all the time. That also explains it. A little thing about the crown chakra. Yeah, it's the most sacred chakra. The head is nothing without a body. If you ever see people who go crazy, everything else in their entire body will go out of funk because their head isn't right and they're just not feeling themselves. Keep in mind, if you wake up and you don't feel good mentally, that affects everything. That affects your whole day. That makes you feel in a fog and in a haze. Like, some people who I've really had to help, I've literally had to snap them out of it, just wake them up. Like, hey, wake up! And they wake up and they're like, oh. And just basically, it might freak them out, but it makes things a lot more clear. It just shoots the clouds out. Like, when you wake up, it's like, oh, everything's not as bad as I thought it was. Oh, thank God. Now, there's going to be a bunch of questions from people who have already asked the questions in my TikTok. They're like, can hairdressers touch my head? Like, is it okay if someone touch my head and it's not intentional? Listen, overall, when someone touches your head, it's not a good thing. Now with babies, if you accidentally, like, there's a spot on baby's head, if you press it, it's really bad. Same thing spiritually for us, it actually doesn't go away. So there's a reason why people grow their hair long. It helps their connections with their guides and the earth. And just, there's different reasons in every single culture. Like, you'll have to research that on your own. I'll talk about that in a different video. Your crown chakra is very, I don't want to say fragile, but it is. It's very fragile to energies. Your third eye, your throat can be fragile. Your third eye can be fragile, but not as fragile as the crown. When your crown chakra is messed up, your other chakras will be messed up too. Kind of like the root chakra, because your energy circulates. So let's just say, and you can look up symptoms online about crown chakra imbalances, because there's a whole list. One of them is like just different ways to balance them. It's gonna hit different to try to balance it when someone touches it. Now, I would like you guys to pay attention. Maybe some of you have that friend. Maybe you guys know that maybe you just see people touch each other and like just patting each other and their hands are all over each other. Yeah, bro. And like, I see it at the gym all the time. I feel like rubbing the head and patting the head. Okay, so let me get into this. A lot of people are just trained straight out, like flat out, just to not feel anything, to not feel energy. If someone eats a lot of beef, or someone eats a lot of pork, those two meats very specifically, they're going to be more likely and prone to not feeling energy. When there's something energetically wrong with them in their system, they're not going to be able to put their hand over their chakra and feel the flow of energy spinning clockwise or how quick it is. That's an ability that some people are able to do. Like, they'll put their hands over the chakra and they can measure the heat based on the energy the chakra is putting off. But for someone who's eating beef or pork, that's going to be nearly impossible, because beef and pork literally train you how to not feel energy. So if you're eating beef and pork and you have people touching your head, you're like, I don't feel anything, but I do feel kind of lost. I don't know my purpose. Well, there's your exact reason. Now, I'll talk about hairdressers right now. People doing your hair. I literally started, okay, there's several categories of hairdressers. There's hairdressers who are spiritual and they'll cleanse. You might not know they're spiritual, but they'll cleanse. Still, it doesn't matter. That hairdresser interfering with your crown chakra, you're still going to pick up on problems. You're going to still encounter problems. It doesn't matter how spiritual or how cleansed they are. People who should be cleansing you, people who should be cleansing you, the people who should be touching your head are people in initiated traditions, people who are godparents, people who, it could be in your family, it could be just different spiritual figures will put a crown on you. It doesn't matter if it's in your family, or even then, if you have people who are really bad who are putting a crown on you, then the badness from them comes in your crown, literally. You inherit their problems. Yeah. I'm gonna go deeper into this right now. So basically, like I said with hairdressers, because so many of you want to know about the hairdresser part, Okay, but generally okay. I'm gonna give a few different examples here. Let's just say the hairdresser. She's spiritual. You don't even know she's spiritual. She cleanses, like she has some kind of routine. She knows about the crown chakra in the head. Okay, then you'll pick up on like it's gonna be like you're gonna pick up on something, but it's gonna be minor. You might reestablish the connection with your guide somehow. Like you'll just kind of like it'll come back with a little bit of time, etc. Now let's just say the person's an okay person. You don't really know him too well. That's not good either, because of that person, and that then the levels just raise. Now, if it's a person who likes to gossip and who has stuff going on, and they're spiritual, they're definitely spiritually dirty, because if they're going hand to hand on head to head, they're passing other people's problems with their hands. You think when you wash your hands, that's washing away spiritual problems? No, that's not how it works. Spiritual residual goes into the aura, it goes into the energetic field. If you are, just think about how many people who are, and hairdressers are gonna hate me for this video, but I say the truth, like straight truth that people are not likely to hear. If you're a hairdresser and you're watching this video, you can do your part in deep cleansing. You can, because you're touching people's crowns. You don't know what spirit or what entities, or if it's a being of light, a being of darkness resides on that person's crown. Just think of, I mean, there are happy hairdressers. There are good hairdressers and barbers and people who cut hair. There are really bad ones. The good ones, your guides do have somewhat of a way to kind of avert any of the badness. Maybe some of you, I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but the people who have tried, back then, like, even touch my head, I don't know if this is a guide or an angel defending me. Maybe it's Michael or someone like that, but people would complain of their hands burning. Just, maybe it's all the crystals in the head, I don't know. But the thing is, when someone touches your guides will try to defend you. They'll be like, nope, nope, and they don't like that. They'll full on, I don't want to say attack a person for trying to touch your head if you don't let them, but like even days ahead of time, I'll have dreams or visions that people are going to try and touch my head, and those exact people try to touch my head, and I bob and I duck and I weave. I'm like, like, we're going to have a problem if you try to touch my head. And that's one problem. That's what happened to boundaries. What happened to people respecting your space? Like, you with your bros, but your bros, you don't know where their hands has been. Number one, like, you don't know where their hands have been. They walk out of the bathroom and their hands are still dry. Instead of for fist bumping you, they want to give you a whole slap up and a head bob. No, that's not okay. And if you're a girl, still, people are unhygienic, physically and unhygienic spiritually. Some symptoms that you're gonna feel when people touch your head and not even know it. Because how do you know there's a problem there if you don't even know how to recognize a problem, and if you don't even know it's a problem? Now you guys are gonna be more aware because you're watching my video, and this is gonna help you identify it, like, flat out. This is gonna help you identify it, and you're gonna see it in others. Now, it's not okay for someone to walk up and touch you on the head. I'm sorry, maybe with your friends or with your bros, but there's personal space, chakras, there's a transference of energy on a scientific and on a spiritual scale when someone walks up and touches your head. Number one, if you notice, and touches you in general, I mean, if it's a friend, if it's someone you know, if it's someone you can trust, and like, okay, you can pat me or whatever, yeah, okay, but if it's someone you don't know, they're just trying to put their hands all over you, red flag. Number one, and I made a video like this in the past, when people go to touch you in general, not your head yet, but when people are going to touch you, or someone who's very touchy, they're going to always do it with their right hand. I call it the proscubus. I call it the prong. Because you're right, I mean, the people who are mainly energy dominant in the right hand, some people, like a very minor percentage, are in their left, but you're right, universally is your projection side. Your heart's on your left. It doesn't matter if you project with your left. This is still the universal projection side. When people reach out with their right hand, that's how they receive energy. When they go to open a door to receive the energy that they're in a room, they open the door before they enter the room. I'm going to teach you a little secret right now. If you see some kind of spiritual trick played on you, one thing you can do is you could, like, if someone put some kind of weird spiritual note or whatever, if you don't trust it and it's mildly general, like it's general, like you just don't trust it, or maybe you just don't like the energy of it, use your left hand to project, because that flat out declares that, hey, I'm rejecting whatever negative energies onto it, because if you use your right hand to grab it, means that's how you normally grab things. Now, if you use your left hand to grab it, now it does counter some of its energy. It doesn't counter everything, but it does counter some of it. These people are not reaching out if you pay attention to people who try to touch you, try to grab you, put their hands on you, they will do it with the right hand. And pay attention to your body, the feelings in your body. Stop eating pork and stop eating beef, because when you feel people touch you, you'll feel a tingle, a buzz, you'll feel static electricity. Your gifts will open when you stop eating pork and meat. Like, you have to stop eating, pork and beef. Chicken's okay, fish is good. Just, those two I was having trouble, and I opened several energy gifts within other people just by having them to stop eating pork and stop eating beef. These people couldn't feel one thing, and now they can feel if the room is hot or cold, if there's energy. Like, they'll be able to put their hand over their chakra, and they can feel it spinning. Like, I teach people how to open their energy gifts and just sensing energy just by getting them to flat out stop eating pork and beef. That's it. Like, that's a start. That's how you're going to start noticing stuff. That's the beginning. Now, when people who go just to touch you and grab you and put your hand on you, that's not okay for one, and they're going to do it with the right hand. Pay attention to how you feel afterwards, because you will notice either it's one or two, maybe some people get both, but you'll notice a hot feeling or a cold feeling, like chills or a warm, tingly sensation. It could be around your neck, even though they just touched your arm, but guess what? Your energy just got sapped. But don't be scared. It's gonna come back. It might take a day or two, but it's sapped. Like, people can sap a lot of energy without even touching you, let alone touching you, and it literally strings straight through your energy field. Don't just let random people touch you. That's one major thing about this video. Let alone your head and your most sacred chakra. I remember this happened there's so many different scenarios of this, because I've asked people why do they feel so tired throughout the day, and I went back because I was talking to a guy. He says, I had so much energy before I left the house, and I just don't have any energy. I don't know what's happening. This is happening every day. It's like I'll leave work, and then I'll just have no energy, even though I just sat down. I wasn't there for too long. And I said to him, okay, what happened at work today? Oh, I talked to my boss. Oh, I'm like, okay, what'd your boss do? He said, oh, he gave me a pat on the back, and he told me I'm doing a good job. And I'm like, he pat you on the back? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's what's taking your energy. He's literally coming up to you. And your back is a vulnerable chakra too. The different micro energy centers on your back are vulnerable. They're just flat out vulnerable. When people are evil-eyeing you in public, do not turn your back to them. Do not turn your back to them, because you'll absorb it. You'll fully absorb it. Now, he was getting pat on the back for one. The boss wasn't even touching his head. Now, I told him, don't let your boss pat you on the back. Set boundaries. Be like, hey, I don't feel like getting touched today. I'm feeling I don't feel like being touched. And the next few days, the first day he noticed that when his boss didn't pat him on the back, he flat out felt his energy come back, because he was still getting his energy back. Over the next course of a few days, when he didn't let his boss, let alone anyone else, pat him on the back, he felt much better. He felt rejuvenated. He would leave work and he would go straight to the gym and he'd work out completely fine. I have so many other scenarios and just different people I've helped get their energy back. Like, that's just one way. That's the fastest way for someone to energy rob you, is by touching you without you just wanting to touch you, let alone your head. When people touch your head, and you got these bros, and these people are just rubbing each other on the head, those people have mystery headaches. They think it's normal to have headaches. Like, I talk to so many people a day. I talk to hundreds of people a day, let it be online, in the person, in the gym, at the beach. I talk to all these people, and I will collect this information and I'll teach them. I'm like, hey, you gotta cut this off, and then they'll come back to me and be like, yeah, you're right. Like, I didn't let people touch my head. I don't have a headache now. Like, I feel less lost. I feel less foggy. I feel less brain fog. And there is a scenario, it depends on how long they touch their head, but energy transference takes 1 second, whether the intention is good or the intention was not good, or if there was no intention at all, and they still touched the head, this is still a problem. You're going to feel flat out lost, because your crown, like I said, is an antenna. Visualize your crown as an antenna, and there's just there's different radios there, and someone touches your head and it kind of scrambles the frequencies. So now when your guides are trying to telepathically communicate messages with you, now you're not getting any messages because the frequency's messed up. Like, flat out, that's what the frequency is. Your frequency is kind of off to your guides, and the messages are not coming through. They're kind of foggy, they're not clear. You thought basically your intuition was on point. Your intuition has been messed up recently, and it's because you let someone touch your head. You went to the wrong hair person. You went to a hair person. It doesn't matter. Like, you'll get flat out scrambled, and it'll last. Sometimes it can last a few weeks. Sometimes it could be a few months. Sometimes it doesn't go away until you. And I'll actually teach you how to reverse them, because a lot of you were panicking. How do I undo this? Yes, I'll teach you how to undo it now. One of the strongest ways ever to undo that, and I can't guarantee this is going to 100% work for you because you have to know who your main angel is, your main guides, whoever's sitting on top of your head, and whoever's your main connection, because you all have different guides. If you want to find out who your guides are, find Eve the Medium's YouTube channel. She's excellent. Get a reading from her because she's amazing. She's legitimate. Don't go to these other fake psychics. I made a video about that. These people are going to rip you off. They'll attempt to put a curse on you to ask you to pay to remove it, and you won't even know it's them. But Eve the Medium's legit. I already talked about that yesterday. But here, when someone has touched your head, it could be like maybe you're still in a brain fog. And keep in mind, there's different reasons people are in a brain fog. It's not just because someone touched your head. But if you notice that someone touched your head and you're feeling funny and you're feeling off and you're panicked, because you're gonna be in a fog, so it's more likely for you to panic. Here's what you do, and even family counts. Just if it's a family member who is spiritual and they know what they're doing, okay. But if it's just a random brother or sister and they're grown and they're touching your head and they're just not energetically right, it's gonna mess with you. It's gonna flat out mess with you. Some of you are already sensitive to people touching your head, and you'll get flat out headaches when people are trying to touch your head, etc. Like even, okay, I'm gonna talk about this now. I'll explain a little more what I'm about to say right after this. But when people touch your head and you want to undo it, spiritual bathing. You might have to do a full spiritual bath, or you can just do a head spiritual bath. It depends on where you're at. Most likely, and Eve the Medium on her YouTube channel teaches spiritual baths. There's a lot of spiritual baths that go along the general same guidelines. You can use coconut water, Florida water. You can use, it depends. You have to find out what your main angel or main spirit likes. I don't speak for people who have dark guides because those guides don't like anything that is going to cleanse them off of them. So yeah, they'd be like, oh, pour some whiskey. No, don't pour whiskey over your head. Don't do that at all. Use something like Florida water. You can use Florida water. Florida water is generally safe. Most guides like Florida water, okay? You can use coconut water because that's replenishing. You can use cascarilla, which is an eggshell chalk on your crown. I don't suggest that for everyone. You have to know what your main guide is going to say. It depends on the person because you have to hear what they're going to say directly, not just out of intuition. My guide and guides, pretty much like every crystal, everything on my head, that's just who I am as a person. I have every essence of just different everything. It took a while to build up to that point, but it helps them as well. And it helps me to help other people. So yeah, like if you look at my hair, there's 100,000 crystals you guys can't see. You guys are just seeing the surface. I have crystals on crystals on crystals on crystals on crystals. I love crystals because I know what they do and I know how helpful they are and I know where they come from and the history behind them and just the power in the spiritual world and the power in the physical world. I'm not gonna get into that right now. I talk about that every single day. But yeah, there's a lot of crystals in my head because yeah, I work heavily with angels and I work with all the angels, just in different sections, if that makes sense. Different angels at a time. Always St. Michael the Archangel, though. But let me get back to this video. You can cleanse your head. Depends. You have to find out, like, because you can use a wrong herb or a wrong essence on your crown chakra, and you're gonna your guide is not a fan of that herb. Maybe they're gonna be a better herb. Maybe your guide flat out really dislikes that herb, and they're not gonna be able to connect with you because there's that herb still in your spiritual or frequency just on your crown. So you have to go to if someone legitimately like really messed up your crown chakra and you're flat out messed up, go to Eve the Medium. She's gonna teach you. Get a reading from her, or you can watch her videos too. Just because it's so specific. The crown chakra is very specific and it can be protected. Now, a few crystals too, because I'm going to teach you some protection crystals to avert this. You can use amethyst for the crown chakra. That's one of the best ones. Amethyst, black tourmaline, and clear quartz are all good for the crown chakra in case anyone tries to rogue touch your head. If you've ever seen me, even in the gym, because some people will just kind of come up and be like, oh, what's that? I'll really surprise them. I'll scream. I'll basically howl at them. I'll be like, don't touch my head. Like, I'll just flat out say, like, no. And I'll just, like, I make it clear. Like, you don't touch a spiritual person's head at all. If you ever try to touch a spiritual person's head, and that person already knows about the crown chakra, and that's where their main spirit resides, let alone if they're an initiated tradition. Most of the time, you're going to get some kind of you're going to get a lashback from whatever their main spirit is. You're going to get, if you're doing it and not even knowing it, they might just yell and scream at you, or just kind of like shout at you, like parent you. If you're doing it intentionally and you know it, you're in a lot more trouble. But most likely, they're just gonna send you some fire. That's it. You might just get your hand burnt. Or it really depends, because everyone's guide is different. I'm not going to speak for everyone's guide, but this video is all about just the importance of not letting people touch your head. That's why a lot of you who have really bad godparents in different traditions, because I talk to many of you, the people who have the world's most corrupt godparents, those people who have their head crowned by the darkest of people will have the darkest of things going on. It's because, yeah, you inherited a dark crown. Just look at kings and queens. They're just, even, you can use, just throughout history, like, for the king who has a crown, and that king is dark, and he passes it down to his son. Now he has to deal with whatever his dad had on his crown, and the people, all the people, which are spirits or angels in that case, around that crown, and what they were dealing with at the time, it's just passed down. Same thing with your crown. If you have any questions, ask them in the comment sections. I hope this video is very clear to you. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!